the 2025 Grammys just took place, and some of my biggest takeaways in terms of the awards, the performances, and the moments are as follows. The biggest story is Beyonce's Album of the Year drought ending as she finally wins it with Cowboy Carter. Now, was that a makeup call for her not winning it with Renaissance? I would buy into that argument more if you could give me 2 or more other nominees in the category that were more deserving of it this year than Cowboy Carter. I would say that the only other album out of these nominees that really had a good argument for winning Album of the Year was Charli XCX's Brat. She had a huge year. Brat was a mega breakthrough for Charli XCX. It was a Brat summer. It was marketed brilliantly. Charli just had a whole moment. The other nominees in the category, some of them were good albums. I mean, Jacob Collier's album was really good. But if you look at the other 2 biggest names in the category, I'm talking about Taylor Swift and Billie Eilish, their respective albums were not their best stuff. Like, I do like Hit Me Hard and Soft, but that was not Billie Eilish's best album. And Taylor Swift, who won it with Midnights last year, becoming the standalone leader in the Album of the Year category with her 4th win, Tortured Poets Department wasn't a top 4 Taylor Swift album. So I thought that it was pretty appropriate for Beyonce to win it this year with Cowboy Carter. And the fact that she hadn't won it up until this point just kind of adds context around how much it mattered that she did win it this year. Like, she could have won it with Renaissance. She really could have won it with Sasha Fierce or even Lemonade. But at least now we can close the chapter, the kind of awkward chapter of the Recording Academy never having voted a Beyonce album as Album of the Year. So props to Beyonce for finally winning that award. It shouldn't be looked at as Beyonce finally having an album that was Album of the Year worthy. This was more the Recording Academy finally deciding to vote for Beyonce, basically. And then in the other major categories, you had Kendrick Lamar's Not Like Us sweeping the individual song categories. I'm talking about Record of the Year and Song of the Year. Now, I issued a bunch of preview and prediction videos, and I actually hit on a lot of these. Like, I did predict that Beyonce would finally win Album of the Year, and I also released a standalone video saying that Kendrick Lamar must win, not should win or whatever, must win for Record of the Year, if not both Record of the Year and Song of the Year. When you consider the impact of Not Like Us, the ubiquity of it, the fact that it was playing everywhere throughout the year and the song would not go away. Kendrick Lamar is about to perform at the Super Bowl this week. And the biggest question is he going to play Not Like Us? Everybody wants to know. Like, is he going to play that famous, epic, nail in the coffin Drake diss at the Super Bowl? And I thought that if Not Like Us got shut out of Record of the Year and Song of the Year, it would have been because the Recording Academy, for whatever reason, didn't feel comfortable voting for something or a song that had such a negative impact on another artist's career. You know, just the controversy around the epic 2024 battle/beef between Kendrick Lamar and Drake. I mean, Drake is currently suing Universal Records over this song, Not Like Us. So maybe the Recording Academy wanted to say, no, I don't want any part of that controversy. And I thought that maybe there was a chance that Not Like Us wouldn't win Record of the Year and Song of the Year. But just on its merits, it had to win. It was by far the most impactful song out of these nominees. And look, I love that Bruno Mars and Lady Gaga song, and, you know, Sabrina Carpenter's hits obviously had their huge moments. Espresso was ultra viral. Please, Please, Please was arguably more successful than Espresso. So yeah, there were other songs that were mega, but I mean, bigger than Not Like Us, more impactful and culturally relevant than Not Like Us. Nah, that had to win. Again, at least Record of the Year, maybe even Record of the Year and Song of the Year. And it in fact won both. And it also won other genre specific categories like Best Rap Song. So yeah, Kendrick Lamar's Not Like Us pretty much swept in the categories that it was nominated in, deservingly so. And then in the other major category, Best New Artist, that was the one that I didn't get right. I thought that Sabrina Carpenter was going to win that one, but Chappell Roan, in fact, won it for Best New Artist. I thought that Sabrina Carpenter, you know, just because she was a bigger overall pop star in the moment than Chappell Roan, but if you listen to like the audience and the cheers and stuff, Chappell Roan was kind of like the people's champ throughout these Grammys. People really love Chappell Roan. And her album was really good, that Rise and Fall of a Midwest Princess. I mean, I've listened to that, and I've listened to Sabrina Carpenter's Short and Sweet. Both really good albums. I thought the Sabrina Carpenter's was more along the lines of the style of pop that, you know, that you've heard before often. Chappell Roan, I feel like she has a more interesting and statement making angle at this point as an artist. So I thought that Sabrina Carpenter, and I said this in that preview, I thought that Sabrina Carpenter would win it, but if not Sabrina Carpenter, then Chappell Roan. But Chappell Roan, in fact, won it over Sabrina Carpenter. And at first, I thought Sabrina Carpenter was going to have a lot more success throughout the night because she won an early award. It was like a pop song award. And she won it over like a Billie Eilish song, I think Birds of a Feather, and over a Taylor Swift song. And that was like earlier during the ceremony. So I thought that that might foreshadow a lot more Sabrina Carpenter wins, but no, she didn't win in most of the categories that she was nominated in. Again, Best New Artist, Chappell Roan. Another big takeaway for me was St. Vincent pretty much smashing the awards that she was in, and that wasn't a surprise. I think that I got all of those category predictions right as well. The idea that St. Vincent would win Best Alternative Music Album and Best Alternative Music Performance, as well as Best Rock Song. All three of those, I thought that St. Vincent would win it, and she did win in all of those categories. She's kind of like one of the it artists of the generation, especially when you talk about that indie alternative vein. Like, this was her third win in Best Alternative Music Album. So she's tied for the all-time lead in that relatively young category. It started like in 91, but she now joins Beck, Radiohead, and White Stripes with 3 wins in Best Alternative Music Album. And again, she also won it for Best Alternative Music Performance, a very young category. This is like only its third year. And then Best Rock Song. The Beatles Now and Then won it for Best Rock Performance. Look, I'm not a huge fan of the song. You know, I love the Beatles. In fact, I was going to wear this John Lennon shirt, you know, because I did release a video basically saying that that Beatles Now and Then song, the AI assisted song, was not a good song. Just my opinion. It sounded like a uncooked John Lennon idea that hadn't fully fleshed out into a song. And, you know, over the years, like Paul, George, and Ringo, they got together with George Martin at the time. They tried to make it happen, but there were technological limitations over trying to isolate John Lennon's voice over the muddy piano that he was playing in that little demo that Yoko Ono unearthed. And that was like, I believe, sometime in the 90s. You fast forward to like 2020 something, Paul McCartney gets with, you know, Giles Martin, which is producer George Martin's son, and Ringo Starr, and they actually bring this song to a finish. So it's a great technological feat that they were able to make a song out of it. It, at the end of the day, still just, when you look at the songwriting and such, I mean, John Lennon, again, is an all-time great. I love, like, In My Life, I'm Only Sleeping, Across the Universe, countless John Lennon songs over the years, right? He's one of the greatest. But this particular song, it wasn't it. But I was just thinking, I mean, it was nominated like in the Record of the Year category. I was thinking, are they gonna award this Beatles Now and Then song some Grammys? And they didn't do it in Record of the Year. That would have been, to me, that would have been a little bit outrageous. But they did award them in the very unimaginative. Like, when you look at the list of nominees, they awarded the Beatles Now and Then in Best Rock Performance. And those rock categories specifically, look, I know that St. Vincent won it for Best Rock Song with, I believe, Broken Man. But when you look at the rock categories, like Best Rock Album this year was, I think, the Rolling Stones with Hackney Diamonds. I mean, they couldn't at least give it to Jack White for No Name. I thought the Jack White release, like, arguably, I was going to wear this one too in solidarity with Jack White's No Name album. I thought that should have won Best Rock Album. This one was really, really good. But you look at the names that are popping up in Best Rock, whether it's song or album, it's usually like like Pearl Jam was nominated, 90s band, right? Still making music, but 90s band. Green Day was nominated. Again, Best Rock Album went to the Rolling Stones, a 60s band. So, you know, there's so much young blood out there in the rock realm. I would just like to see that represented more in some of these rock categories. But yeah, props to St. Vincent for like killing it in the alternative and in that rock category. And again, the Beatles won it with Now and Then in Best Rock Performance. One of the bigger surprises for me in these Grammys was Doechii winning Best Rap Album. She won it over Eminem, J. Cole, Future, Common, and Pete Rock. Doechii won it with Alligator Bites Never Heal, which is really a mixtape. It's a good one, but I didn't think she had a chance at beating some of those names on that nomination list. I was really kind of hoping Common and Pete Rock won it. I love that auditorium. I really like, maybe love is a little bit strong, but I really, really like the Auditorium Volume 1. And I thought that they had a really good chance at winning it. I think I picked them to win it. And I thought that if it wasn't them, that it would be Eminem, because he's won in Best Rap Album like several times in the past. But no, they gave it to, essentially the rookie in the bunch, Doechii, who also had an amazing performance when they had those best new artists. Like, it was almost like a medley. Well, not really a medley. They just had one after the other after the other. It was like the lesser known best new artist nominees, because in other places during the ceremony, they had, the famous best new artist nominees, Chappell Roan and Sabrina Carpenter, perform. So they took a moment to have like Shaboozey, Benson Boone, who, by the way, like one of the crazy moments was him. I mean, his song is fantastic, right? He had a huge song this past year, but this dude was doing like cartwheel backflips off a piano. He did multiple flips during his performance. That boy's an athlete. That was pretty tight. He killed his performance. But they, had him performing for a couple minutes. They had Teddy Swims performing, Shaboozey, Ray, who is, famously a songwriter for everybody from like so many different artists, Beyonce included. Ray is just one of those highly sought out songwriters who's now really developing her own career. So they, took a moment to spotlight the different best new artist nominees with the performances. And I thought Benson Boone killed it. Now look, Ray and Teddy Swims, they could sing their butts off, right? But performance-wise, I thought that Benson Boone and Doechii kind of stole that moment. Like, they both were pretty fantastic. And I'm usually not a huge fan of a lot of the Grammy performances. I mean, it's really kind of like a meet and greet, for a lot of these artists with the public who might not be aware of a lot of them. But I usually find a lot of the Grammy performances to be rather forgettable. And I thought that a lot of them this, past year were. There were some standouts. Like, I liked Bruno Mars and Lady Gaga performing California Dreaming when they were talking, LA and the wildfires were a big topic throughout the ceremony. But yeah, I thought that there were a couple good performances. I thought Chappell Roan's performance was very good, very theatric, expectedly so. But, I thought that Billie Eilish, Sabrina Carpenter, I thought that those performances were kind of forgettable. It was also interesting that we got Khruangbin performing at the Grammys. Like, Khruangbin, I was listening to that band like 6-7 years ago. And, sometimes you see a band or an artist that you're very familiar with and you see them nominated in the best new artist category. You're like, wait a second, they've been around since like 2016, 2017. So that was kind of funny that they were nominated for best new artist. But to see Khruangbin, a kind of like psychedelic rock / psych funk band performing at the Grammys, just kind of unusual. Like, I remember when like the Civil Wars, this kind of folky indie band, was unknown and they started popping up or performing, throughout. Like when they would cut to commercial and come back from commercial, they would have the Civil Wars performing. And I'm like, yeah, that's kind of unusual. Just like stylistically, they weren't like a superstar artist, but they were performing throughout the Grammys. So this year it was kind of cool to see Khruangbin, very unlikely Grammy performer, performing at the Grammys. My favorite moment, I think, of the ceremony was the tribute to Quincy Jones. It started off with Will Smith, speaking about him. A lot of people didn't know that Quincy Jones was the executive producer of The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. So Quincy Jones is largely responsible for getting Will Smith his start in acting, like his first big break and making him kind of a household name. Yeah, Quincy Jones is responsible for that. So Will Smith, before these performances I'm about to talk about and afterwards, gave a great Quincy Jones story and just really spoke to Quincy Jones' legacy in a pretty profound way. I like that. But Quincy Jones, had a jazz background. Before he got into pop music or even film and film scores, he had a jazz background. He was an arranger and worked with everybody from Count Basie to Frank Sinatra and even some huge names before that. I think it was like Lionel Hampton, whose band he was in when he was first like really emerging. And this goes as far back as like the early 50s, like even like the end of the 40s. Like Quincy Jones, like he put in work for decades and has crossed genre several times. But, the performances were Cynthia Erivo and Herbie Hancock kind of kicking things off, performing Fly Me to the Moon. That was a part of the album that was arranged by Quincy Jones, and it was a Frank Sinatra / Count Basie collab album. And then there was a moment where it was Herbie Hancock, one of the greatest pianists world-class jazz pianists of all time on the keys, and then Stevie Wonder playing his signature harmonica, just playing it beautifully. Then they got into Stevie Wonder speaking on Quincy Jones and expressing his love for him. And then they got into We Are the World, the mid-1980s philanthropic mega hit, We Are the World, written by Michael Jackson and Lionel Richie. So Stevie Wonder sang, I believe, the first verse, and then there was a kid's chorus throughout the chorus. So that was a really cool moment. And then Janelle Monáe came out and did Don't Stop Till You Get Enough, kind of dressed in Michael Jackson's Billie Jean, Motown 25th anniversary, iconic performance, Billie Jean attire. And she performed the Quincy Jones produced Don't Stop Till You Get Enough from Michael Jackson's Off the Wall. She performed her butt off too. I remember one of the first times I ever saw Janelle Monáe, who I actually just met a couple years ago at her album signing. But I was always as impressed by her ability to perform as I was the music. I mean, The Archandroid is a phenomenal album. I mean, Janelle Monáe's got multiple excellent albums, but she performs so well. She's always been a good dancer, a very good just live singer, and she just captivates you with her movements, with her energy. Yeah, she killed it. So yeah, I really like that Quincy Jones tribute. And then later on, you had the In Memoriam, where they go through just the list of people who passed away over the past year. And yeah, you had some major names, some of whom I've covered throughout 2024. And then my final two notes were Daniel Nigro winning Producer of the Year, which was another one that I predicted that one correctly. I mean, I thought that there was a chance that Mustard would win, on the strength of Not Like Us. So Mustard was nominated, and if Alicia Benveniste would have won it, she would have become the first woman to have won Producer of the Year non-classical. A woman still hasn't won in that category, but Daniel Nigro, who's mostly known as being Olivia Rodrigo's producer, produced the Chappell Roan, The Rise and Fall of a Midwest Princess album. So I thought that based on that, Daniel Nigro would be the Producer of the Year winner, which again, he was. And then one of the surprises of the night was The Weeknd ending his Grammy boycott. They had a moment where Harvey Mason Jr., the CEO of the Recording Academy, whose dad was actually a great drummer. His dad was one of Herbie Hancock's original drummers. But yeah, Harvey Mason Jr. was speaking to the Recording Academy's efforts at equal representation, inclusion, and those different ideas and the steps that they've taken and the strides that they've made. And then he introduced The Weeknd, who again was boycotting the Grammys for several years. So The Weeknd came out and performed a couple songs from his brand new album. So yeah, that was kind of an unexpected moment. But yeah, overall, I thought that the ceremony was pretty damn good. It had some absolute highlights, and I thought that they got it right in terms of who won in those major categories. And they did kind of keep the theme on the LA wildfires. So throughout the night, the ceremony continued to feel pretty purposeful. So yeah, I mean, well done. I enjoyed it. I watched pretty much the whole thing. And I mean, I'm going to be real. I mean, I'm looking back at my picks and I got a lot of these right, at least the ones that I issued videos for. I got 3 out of the 4 major categories right. The only one I missed on was, again, Best New Artist. And then like the alternative categories I got right. And then the Producer of the Year. I missed on Best Rap Album because Doechii pulled off the upset. But yeah, let me know what you thought about the Grammys, whether you enjoyed them, whether you enjoyed the performances, what you thought about the recipients of some of your favorite categories. Let me know in the comments, like the video, subscribe to the channel if you love music like I do. I'm Woog. Thanks for tuning in.